Boardroom Media.
Picture this. It's Friday evening in America, families are piling into their cars. Teenagers are arguing over which action movie to rent. Children rush through brightly lit aisles searching for the latest Disney film, while adults browse shelves packed with thousands of movie titles. For millions of people throughout the 1990s, this wasn't just a routine. It was a tradition. And at the center of that tradition stood one company that seemed impossible to defeat: Blockbuster. Long before Netflix, Disney Plus, or even YouTube existed, Blockbuster controlled how the world watched movies. At its peak, the company operated more than 9,000 stores across the globe, employed over 80,000 people, and generated billions of dollars every year. Wherever you lived, there was a good chance a Blockbuster store was only a few minutes away. It wasn't just a business. It was a cultural icon. But what's truly remarkable is how quickly Blockbuster rose to power. The company was founded in 1985 by an entrepreneur named David Cook. Unlike the small, cluttered video rental shops that existed at the time, Cook imagined something entirely different. Instead of narrow aisles and limited movie selections, he envisioned large, brightly lit stores filled with thousands of titles, computerized inventory systems, and a shopping experience that felt modern and professional. Customers loved it. Finding a movie became easier than ever, and Blockbuster expanded at an astonishing pace. Within only a few years, new stores appeared across America faster than most competitors could react. The famous blue and yellow sign became a familiar sight in neighborhoods, shopping centers, and busy commercial streets. Then came the company's biggest turning point. In 1994, media giant Viacom acquired Blockbuster in a deal worth approximately $8.4 billion. The acquisition wasn't just expensive. It was a declaration. Hollywood believed Blockbuster represented the future of home entertainment. By the late 1990s, the company dominated the video rental industry with an iron grip. New movie releases almost always appeared first on Blockbuster's shelves. Movie studios depended on the company, customers trusted it, and competitors struggled to survive. If you wanted to watch a movie at home, you went to Blockbuster. There was simply no serious alternative. Or so everyone believed. Success often creates confidence. Too much success creates complacency. While Blockbuster celebrated record-breaking profits and opened more stores every month, technology was quietly changing. The internet was beginning to connect millions of households. DVDs were replacing bulky VHS tapes. Consumer habits were slowly evolving. Most executives inside Blockbuster noticed these changes. But they didn't believe they were a threat. After all, how could a tiny startup with almost no stores compete against an empire with thousands? That assumption would become one of the most expensive mistakes in business history. Because while Blockbuster was busy celebrating its dominance, a small company operating out of California was preparing to change the way the world watched movies forever. By the late 1990s, Blockbuster wasn't just leading the movie rental business, it was the movie rental business. Its executives had every reason to feel confident. The company was opening stores across the world, generating billions in revenue, and attracting millions of loyal customers every single week. Investors loved it. Hollywood depended on it. Consumers trusted it. From the outside, Blockbuster looked invincible. But history has a habit of proving that giants rarely fall because they're weak. They fall because they stop paying attention. In 1997, while Blockbuster celebrated another successful year, Two entrepreneurs named Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph launched a small company in California. They called it Netflix. At first, Netflix didn't stream movies. In fact, streaming technology barely existed. Instead, the company introduced a surprisingly simple idea. Rather than driving to a video rental store, customers could browse movies online, order DVDs through a website, and receive them in the mail. Once they finished watching, they simply mailed the DVD back using a prepaid envelope. No driving. No searching crowded shelves. No standing in long checkout lines. Most importantly, no late fees. To many people, that sounded like a minor convenience. To Blockbuster, it sounded like a joke. Why would anyone wait for a movie to arrive by mail when thousands of Blockbuster stores already existed? The executives believed customers enjoyed visiting physical stores. They believed families loved browsing movie shelves together. They believed convenience had already reached its peak. But Netflix wasn't trying to compete on store experience. It was competing on something much more powerful: customer frustration. For years, Blockbuster had earned hundreds of millions of dollars through late fees. Returning a movie even one day late could cost customers extra money, and those penalties became one of the company's most profitable revenue streams. Customers hated them. Netflix knew that. Instead of charging penalties, Netflix introduced a subscription model that allowed members to keep movies without worrying about late fees. It wasn't just a different pricing strategy. It completely changed the relationship between the company and its customers. While Blockbuster focused on maximizing profit from every rental, Netflix focused on making the rental process as painless as possible. The difference seemed small. In reality, it was revolutionary. Then, in the year 2000, something happened that would later become one of the most famous moments in business history. Netflix was struggling financially. Its founders believed their company still needed a much larger partner to survive. So Reed Hastings approached Blockbuster with an offer. Netflix could be acquired for approximately $50 million. To put that into perspective, Blockbuster was generating billions of dollars every year. Buying Netflix would have cost less than many of the stores Blockbuster opened annually. The meeting took place. The proposal was presented. And according to multiple accounts from those involved, Blockbuster's executives laughed. They didn't see Netflix as a future competitor. They saw it as a tiny internet company with an unrealistic business model. Confident in their own dominance, they rejected the offer and walked away. At that moment, it felt like an easy decision. No one in the room realized they had just turned down the company that would eventually reshape the entire entertainment industry. It wasn't the beginning of Netflix's success. It was the beginning of Blockbuster's downfall. Rejecting Netflix wasn't the moment Blockbuster collapsed. It was the moment the clock started ticking. For a few more years, the decision barely seemed to matter. Blockbuster was still making billions of dollars. Stores remained crowded. Families continued renting movies every weekend. And executives pointed to their impressive financial reports as proof they had made the right choice. To them, Netflix was still a niche business. But beneath those numbers, customer behavior was changing faster than Blockbuster realized. High-speed internet was spreading across America. DVD players were becoming common in households. Online shopping was no longer a strange idea, it was becoming normal. Netflix understood something Blockbuster didn't. People weren't loyal to video rental stores. They were loyal to convenience. While Blockbuster continued investing in expensive retail locations, Netflix invested in technology, logistics, and customer experience. Every improvement made renting movies easier, faster, and more enjoyable. Then came another decision that exposed just how difficult it is for successful companies to reinvent themselves. In 2004, Blockbuster finally eliminated its famous late fees. On paper, it sounded like a brilliant move. For years, customers had complained about paying penalties for returning movies a day or two late. Removing those fees should have made people happier. Instead, it created a new problem. Late fees had generated hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Without them, Blockbuster's profits dropped sharply. The company had built its business around a system customers hated, and by removing it, it accidentally weakened its own financial foundation. Meanwhile, Netflix continued growing. Subscribers increased year after year. Its recommendation algorithm became smarter. Its delivery network became faster. Most importantly, customers trusted the company. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 2007, Netflix introduced a feature that seemed almost impossible at the time. Instead of waiting for DVDs to arrive in the mail, people could watch movies instantly over the internet. Streaming. Today, it feels completely ordinary. Back then, it was revolutionary. Blockbuster had spent decades perfecting physical stores. Netflix had just made physical stores unnecessary. Suddenly, the company's greatest strength became its biggest weakness. Every Blockbuster location required rent, electricity, employees, maintenance, and inventory. Netflix didn't need thousands of buildings. It needed servers. The economics were completely different. Blockbuster tried to respond. It launched its own DVD buy-mail service. Later, it attempted its own streaming platform. But every move felt reactive instead of innovative. The company wasn't leading the future anymore. It was chasing it. And chasing is expensive. As profits declined, Blockbuster began closing stores. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. Communities that had once gathered every Friday night watched their local Blockbuster locations disappear one by one. Then the global financial crisis of 2008 made everything even worse. Consumers cut spending. Debt piled up. Investors lost confidence. The empire that once seemed untouchable was now struggling just to survive. In September 2010, the unimaginable finally happened. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. The company that had once dominated an entire industry. The company that laughed at Netflix. The company that could have bought its biggest competitor for only $50 million. Was officially finished. But while Blockbuster faded into history, Netflix was only getting started. On July 19, 2010, Blockbuster's fate was already sealed. Just 2 months later, the company officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, bringing an end to one of the greatest business empires of its generation. For millions of people, it felt surreal. The same company that had once dominated Friday nights, the same company with thousands of stores around the world, had been brought to its knees in less than a decade. Store after store closed its doors. The bright blue signs disappeared. The shelves that once held thousands of movies became empty. Employees who had spent years serving customers watched as an era quietly came to an end. Today, only one Blockbuster store remains. Located in Bend, Oregon, it has become less of a business and more of a museum. Tourists travel from around the world just to walk through its doors and experience a piece of entertainment history. Ironically, people now visit Blockbuster not to rent movies, but to remember what it once was. Meanwhile, Netflix continued climbing. The company that Blockbuster dismissed for just $50 million transformed into one of the most valuable entertainment companies in the world. It expanded from DVD rentals into online streaming. Then it began producing its own original content. Shows like Stranger Things, Money Heist, The Crown, and Wednesday became global phenomena, attracting hundreds of millions of subscribers. The startup that executives once laughed at had completely rewritten the entertainment industry. But this story isn't really about Blockbuster. And it isn't really about Netflix. It's about something much bigger. History repeatedly shows that successful companies rarely collapse because they stop working hard. They collapse because they believe yesterday's success guarantees tomorrow's future. Blockbuster didn't fail because people suddenly stopped loving movies. People still loved movies. They simply found a better way to watch them. The company's greatest mistake wasn't rejecting Netflix. That was only the symptom. The real mistake was believing its business model could never become obsolete. Instead of asking, what if the future looks different? Blockbuster kept asking, why would anyone change? That mindset has destroyed countless companies. Kodak invented the digital camera but protected its film business. Nokia underestimated smartphones. BlackBerry ignored changing consumer expectations. And Blockbuster underestimated convenience. Every generation produces its own blockbuster. A market leader so confident in its dominance that it fails to notice the future arriving at its doorstep. The lesson isn't just for billion-dollar corporations. It's for entrepreneurs, creators, business owners, and anyone trying to build something that lasts. Success isn't permanent. Markets change. Technology changes. Customers change. The companies that survive aren't always the biggest. They're the ones willing to adapt before they're forced to. Blockbuster built an empire. Netflix built the future. And in business, the future almost always wins.